let's get into why we're here.
Lunch.
Yeah. All right. Today's guest speaker is an award-winning marketer, writer, consultant, and speaker, helping executives, teams, and entire organizations learn to manage the message. He now leads his own consulting firm and serves as consulting principal with DSG Consulting, both based in Little Rock. Since 2009, he has worked with clients such as J.B. Hunt, Digital Insight, Lockheed Martin, Web Trends, Kelly Services, Pacific, Honeywell, Arkansas Mutual Insurance, and the American Taekwondo Association. That's just to name a few. There's other on the list that I couldn't pronounce. All right. He assists with research and strategy, building customized messaging playbooks, training customer-facing teams, and helping clients transform their marketplace conversations. His award-winning Karrh on Marketing column appears regularly in Arkansas Business, Northwest Arkansas Business Journal, and Entrepreneurial.com. A collection of his most popular columns, 30 Doses of Marketing Success, was published in 2011. And we have that outside, is that correct? That book's available outside. It's on the table. He has written for...
Giving them away, Sean.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Another hard sign. He has written for and has been quoted in publications ranging from Nation's Business to Dallas Morning News and Orlando Sentinel, Pizza Marketplace, Bottled Water Reporter, and the Arkansas Realtor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jim Karrh.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It really is a pleasure to be here and to get some feedback from you, pick your brains, and talk with you a bit. Frankly, I'm happy to be almost anywhere. I came in the last flight last night to the Clinton Airport. Anybody ever had that? You know, coming in at 11:45, we came in from O'Hare. It's a very close group in the airport coming in late at night. I swear that the flight attendant jumped off to drive the jet bridge, and I think I might have seen the pilot with our baggage. I'm not sure about that. I'm really excited because you're my peeps, basically. And I have developed over, especially in recent years, from the work that I've been doing, and I've worked since the time I've been in Little Rock as a professor at UALR, columnist, doing consulting work. I've been a corporate CMO, and then been working as a consultant to a whole lot of different kinds of businesses, mostly in the B2B realm, is what we'll talk about. And really develop some ideas around things that are holding them back. And they have to be just at the point of attack, the point of engagement with the customers. And I want to share some of those ideas with you because that's what you're doing, right, on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And so I look forward to your feedback. I hope that the things that I believe I've noticed and we want to talk about today, I hope you'll find some resonance with you. There's a particular tool that I think you can take away and it might help you right away. And I've noticed it's a soft spot for a lot of salespeople and marketing leaders. And just to get your feedback around all of this, SMEI is a unique organization because you know the traditional pull gap, Grand Canyon, between sales and marketing organizations lots of times, and the product teams and the service teams and the like. And SMEI is unique in bridging that gap, and that's a lot of the work that I do as well. Again, I look forward to your feedback and talking about these ideas. I want to test something with you. I think I know the answer to it, but I want you to tell me. The premise is that the best product always wins. No? Why not? I mean, we work hard on product quality and service quality and satisfaction and having good stuff. Why is that the best product doesn't always win?
Money.
Money. Pricing? Okay.
National
Image,
contract.
brand perception.
Image,
Marketing.
branding, perception, good marketing.
People like to work with people they know and that they like.
Do they like relationships? All those things do come into play. It's a privilege to be able to work with a lot of companies that do win-loss analyses about deals that they got and deals that they didn't, and trying to look for some common themes that are in there so they can continue to get better. And it gets to this question about why is it that sometimes we win deals, why is it that people buy, or teams buy, and why they don't? And what makes the difference between people who really excel and those who do okay? And there are lots of different thoughts about this, right? Is it because they like you? Is it relationships? People want to buy from people that they like, right? They want to hang around jerks. Is it because the product is better? Well, it's really a lot of the differences, the real tangible differences among products and services are pretty thin these days. There are a lot of Me Too's out there, not a whole lot of differentiation. What we hear a lot is the notion of trust. We trust someone, I think they do the best job. And that really seems to be the common theme about outstanding performance. But trust has a real special meaning. And what we find is that trust has two components. There's the trust that you know what you're talking about. She knows her stuff. Right? She'll get it done. Things will work the way they're supposed to. So I'm talking to somebody who's really a leader in the marketplace. But there's also the trust that you will act in my best interest. But I know that you're going to act in your best interest. I mean, that's just human. But it's also that component that you're going to take my goals and objectives and challenges and fears into account, so that we'll all benefit from that relationship. So trust, lots of times we're trying to kind of demonstrate credibility. A lot of the marketing and positioning that we do is around that. That's kind of one component, but there's that other element about trusting that you're going to act in my best interest, make me look good. There's a unique role for conversations in all their forms, face-to-face, virtual, phone, email, social media, all those, a unique role for them. But what I find is that the state of customer engagement and those customer conversations ain't very good, in my opinion, from what I see. I know that's a very high-food concept that's here. But, and I'll give you an example. All right, just as a quick kind of represent all of this, let's see. If your birthday is in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, or August, would you briefly raise your hand? Okay. All right. Everybody else, latter third of the year, raise your hand. Thank you. The people in the first group, for our purposes here, you represent the delusional. It's not personal, it's just for illustration, all right? And where that comes from, it's a study that I quoted in a column a while back and had in my book. A survey of about 1,200 professionals, managerial workers across the country. And they asked two questions. You'll find this interesting, I think. They asked them, everybody had a supervisor, and that may be a C-suite supervisor, maybe a manager, director, whatever that might be. They asked the workers, does your immediate supervisor believe that he or she is a good communicator? And they also asked, is that same person really a good communicator? There was a substantial gap between perceptions on both sides. I think if the numbers are correct here, 86% of the time said, yes, my boss believes that she's a good communicator. But 17% said that the boss actually is. When I do the math, 86 minus 17, it's 69% delusional quality, so I kind of rough it out on 2/3. The fact is that a lot of people aren't real good at it, despite the role that conversations have out in the marketplace with customers and prospects. Most people tend to think they're better at it than they are. And bigger companies and more complex buying processes, especially the B2B stuff, I can tell you, big companies tend to mess this up on a grand scale. All right, so lots of points of failure in here. Customer engagement through conversations isn't very good. I'm going to tell you some things again that I noticed and things that I think you can use to help make it better. These are some companies, organizations that I've worked with over the past 4 years, most of which I can pronounce, but not all. And it's been I put this just to give you a sense of range, and there are a few that maybe I did not include, but they range from local. They range for a few smaller, kind of fast-growing, venture capital, private equity-funded companies, all the way to some big names, big, lunking, bureaucratic Fortune 100 type names like the Honeywells and the Alcatel-Lucents and the like. What I'm typically doing is working with their teams in the field. So not so much kind of brand positioning work, the stuff that Sean will do really well. But it's taking those sorts of things and helping them be more consistently delivered in the field. So that whether people on the sales team, the product marketing teams, the services teams, the subject matter experts are all delivering something that's concise and clear and better. So, and oftentimes we're doing this with playbooks, we do playbooks, and we do training and implementation activities and all that sort of stuff. So it's really very practical, very in the field, see what's going on, winning deals, losing deals, pulling hair out, all those sorts of things as well. And so, given that range, it's been a real privilege. Some of them have been on my own. A lot of them are through DSG Consulting. Some bigger deals. That's been the entry point for me to lead consulting for some of these bigger companies who wouldn't talk to me otherwise. But I've learned a lot from them, and I can share a lot of that with you. What they typically want me or us to do is change the game that they're playing, change how they're framing their conversations and how they're working out in the marketplace. And we oftentimes think about a kind of from to motion, a today to tomorrow sort of motion. And oftentimes the executives will say, we're trying, Jim, we want to stop focusing so much on our stuff and ourselves and how big we are and how fast we're growing or our quality awards or this or that, and get to more of a customer focus, kind of move it over this way. We want to have less of talking about products and more about a business level discussion. Not so much lost in the weeds with features and functions and that sort of thing. Let's do the demo, let me show you a sample, but have a less technical sort of conversation, because increasingly the buyer might include a CFO. Right? He's got to go through the financial buyer. He's got to go through other people like that who might not know if you have a pretty complicated solution or something that's very detailed. They may not get it. Instead of kind of what I would roll your own, whereas everybody in the field is kind of doing their own thing. You have a bunch of cowboys and cowgirls that are saying, I got this. I know how to do this. So there's no consistency. They want to get, can't we need to be thematically the same. So, and not just person to person, but also the conversations that people are having in the field should bear some resemblance to what's on our website or our YouTube videos or what's on our social media pages and our collateral and those sorts of things. And frankly, we're just tired of being late and losing deals. So less reactive and more proactive and kind of early in the conversation. And there's a role, again, for conversations in building that appropriate level of trust to work here. You may have heard the story of the Middle Eastern man who he had 3 sons, and when he passed away, his dying wishes were that his camels would be split in a certain way among his 3 sons. They had different needs, but camels are a very valuable asset. He had 17 of them when he passed. And his wishes were that half of his camels would go to his oldest son. 1/3 of the camels would go to the next son, and then to the youngest, who didn't need quite as many, 1/9. Problem, 17 is not divisible by 2 or 3 or 9. We did not want to divide the camels into fractions, and the brothers were, there was squabbling about this. So they decided to seek counsel of a wise person, and she sat down with the brothers, and they described this quandary. They wanted to honor the father's wishes, but still they needed the camels, right? not camel parts. The wise person thought about this, and she said, well, there's no way to change the math, but I have a thought here. You know, I actually have an extra camel myself. And what if I put my camel into the mix? So now that there are 18. And if we divide these up. So you, the oldest son, you get half. So there's 9 for you. You're the next, you get a third. There's 6 for you. And you, the youngest, you get there's 2 for you. And by the way, that's 9 plus 6 plus 2 is 17, and I get my camel back. So conversations, asking questions, you know, talking through different kinds of solutions get us to a place that just pitching might not. I can remind you that story again. It's really a good one. But in looking at the experiences of lots of different salespeople, marketing leaders, different kinds of companies in different situations, and some of these folks are selling memberships, some have been selling lift trucks and warehouse equipment, some are selling cloud solutions, a whole mix of things. I found some commonalities of forces that tend to pull us away from good customer conversations and away from the opportunity to build something that's really unique and truly value added. So I want to go through some of those, but they're not lost causes. I think if you can recognize these forces, that'll put you in a good position to be able to deal with them. And in each of those, there are the seeds of doing it better. And again, if you can do this better, that's a huge competitive advantage, because most people struggle, and most organizations struggle in kind of an exponential way when you start throwing all these people together. So I want to talk about comfort, consistency, complexity, culture, and coaching. There are probably some others, but if they don't start with C, I might not talk about them today. The first is comfort. Comfort can be a great thing in relationships and to be able to foster an open dialogue. But comfort also gets in the way of sales and marketing effectiveness. I'll reference for some of these some columns I've written recently because I've gotten really intrigued with these ideas. What we find lots of times is that although everybody talks about the need to change, yes, we need to go out to new markets, we need to get out there and change. But we have a set of people that we're comfortable talking to. So for example, the manufacturer of lift trucks and warehouse systems, they're really comfortable over the years of talking to a warehouse manager. A warehouse manager can't make a buying decision. And so we had to equip the team to not forsake that relationship, but how can we get out of our comfort zone and be prepared to make the case to a chief financial officer or to somebody else who has a stake in the efficiency of the supply chain. So we're comfortable in kind of saying the same things. We're comfortable in talking to some of the same people. And frankly, we're more comfortable talking about our stuff than we are trying to really understand your business or your situations and get beneath the surface. We know our stuff. We're comfortable in it. The key, oftentimes, especially in B2B sales, is creating enough discomfort in that customer prospect status quo. Not hopelessness, not like you're so broken no one can fix you, but let's explore a little bit about today, because there are probably some things that aren't quite right. And be able to have that discussion and explore that. And also it probably means being uncomfortable enough ourselves to talk in a little bit different way with some different people. So we've got to break out of the comfort cycle in order to be more effective. Who has said or heard said around your organization, we need to get everybody on the same page? We're not singing from the same page of the hymnal. We don't even have the same hymnal. Consistency is a problem. And the fact is we all kind of have our own stories. We're all individuals out there, even if we're under the same banner. The stories and experiences and meaning of UALR's business school to Jane are going to be a lot of her own. She may talk about it in a different way and have a different experience than somebody else who's talking about university, or you talking about your business, your organization. we have a desire to do it our way. And a characteristic of a lot of good salespeople is that they're very, very much cowboys. They're kind of an individual. They oftentimes have that kind of lone wolf mentality. Look, I know the stuff. I know the marketplace. I got this, right? Don't give me a script. Don't over-program me. Don't make me fill out the stupid forms. I hate Salesforce. All those sorts of things. So the key in kind of getting the teams together is enough structure so there's the same sort of consistent themes. And again, not just from conversation to conversation, but the online versus offline and all those. There are so many more tools to have that conversation, which means there are a lot more ways that it can get diluted and really mixed up and messed up. Complexity. Wow, I see very often that the sales teams, the marketing teams will, this is about the time of year they're going through a lot of product training, and they come out of there so messed up. The teams, the subject matter experts will just, they'll put people in a conference room and they will just deluge them with feeds and speeds and features and functions, and here's the BR549, which is better than the BR548. And then we're going to have the Titanium X Platinum version that's going to come out in Q3, and it's too much. In fact, there's a great skill and a great benefit to being able to narrow it down and be just a few points, and not in technical lingo if you're dealing with a technical solution. I was very intrigued. I started reading about this thing called the lizard brain. Anybody heard of this? You didn't read my column on the lizard? Oh, right. That's okay. I'll send you links later on. Seth Godin had talked about this, and what we've learned is some really interesting things about the way that our brains work. I have a lizard brain, and so do you. It's actually a pair of little nodules about the size of an almond, like the base of your brain, called the amygdala. But lizard brain is a far sexier, more descriptive term. This was the first part of our brains to evolve. So if you think about kind of caveman Jim version, you come out of the cave and you see something that might look like a saber-toothed tiger. It's that initial fight or flight, approach avoidance mechanism that has nothing to do with our higher order thinking. Now, our brains have gotten bigger and a lot more complex, and some of us even use our brains on a regular basis. But we still have that architecture that's in there. So anytime that we are presented with something that is new, different, perceived to be risky, it has to filter through there. It's kind of that initial deal. You hear, on first meeting, it takes you like 5 seconds to have that initial decision about whether you like somebody or not, and whether you want to keep going that way. Well, that's part of what's going on here. The amygdala, the lizard brain. Here is the biggest point about that. The lizard brain cannot process verbal information. It only can do pictures, visuals, something like that. So one of the things that we coach teams on is if they're trying to propose something new, different, perhaps risky, or seems risky, to draw a picture. We will oftentimes craft playbooks that have a whole host of messaging tools, but one of them is a whiteboard conversation. And so you can start with a little whiteboard on the wall, or a flip chart, or a piece of paper, or a cocktail napkin if you're so inclined, and be able to draw a picture. Sometimes it's like the picture of today and the picture of what tomorrow could be like, and use that as a way to explain what you're doing. So ways to get away from lingo and acronyms and complexity is key. And people who are really smart can take something that's complex and make it seem simple and effortless. But most folks can't do that. It's tough. Culture. These are silos, yes. And that term still applies. And it's in our roles, whether it's the org chart or just kind of how we mix the silo mentality in sales and marketing, and being kind of housed in different places, and paid differently and incentivized differently and using different languages and different metrics and all that sort of thing is, it gets in the way. And obviously that drives inconsistency and a lot of ineffectiveness. What we oftentimes will do is when we're doing playbooks and training and things like that, we force these teams together. We'll force the best salespeople, we'll force the marketing folks, the subject matter experts, whoever else that's in there that has a stake in this. And it's been interesting, especially a lot of these the bigger companies will put them into workshops, literally face to face, turn the heat up, whatever it is, to deny them coffee. And we will start building out content that we're going to use so everybody gets their fingerprints on it. And there will be people who have been in the same organization 4 or 5 years and never met one another. And so it takes a real deliberative effort, a consistent effort to keep people out of their silos and to make sure that when you kind of get that message, get that conversation, new people into the organization are getting it as well. Which gets to the last point, is being coaching. There is no such thing, in my opinion, or very, very few instances of the born salesperson. Great salespeople, high-performing teams are made over time. It takes good practices, it takes fumbling and stumbling, sharing wins and fumbles and stumbles, and continuing to get better. Now, I'll just show you this one. This was the most recent column I did for Arkansas Business. And I saw some, it actually was in Scientific American. Okay, I don't subscribe to it, but I occasionally see it, and I'll when I'm kind of looking around for new research and interesting ideas for a blog or a column, I came across this notion of an ambivert. You heard of an ambivert? It is?
Introvert.
Yeah, it's an introvert and extrovert.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle, right? So if you think about a continuum between the withdrawn fetal position corner introvert and the gregarious plaid sport coat extrovert, most of us aren't on either side. Most of us are in the middle, bell curve, like most other things. And the ambivert, ambidextrous, right? I guess going to be in the middle, is comfortable in most social situations, but also needs a little time to withdraw, kind of come back, and get in their own thoughts, a little private time. That's me. And that's Allison. That's probably most of you here. Now, the conventional wisdom has been for years that extroverts make the best salespeople, right? Because they go out there, they go to slay the dragon, and they'll talk to anybody. He'll be a good person. He'll talk to anybody. Ice cubes to Eskimos, all that sort of thing. Well, part of this is kind of almost ringing true because extroverts tend to self-select into sales roles, into customer-facing roles. Seems like it'd be fun. Managers tend to recruit people who show extroversion and the like. But here's the dirty little secret that has come to light. It was a very careful study, 35 different, actually it was a combination of 35 different studies, real salespeople that both, we had the personality profiles for them and we examined their selling efficiency in a real basis. And the relationship between extroversion and sales performance is 0. It just doesn't predict. It's the things that we learn and do and practice. It's not the way that we were made. That really does. But a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, and part of it's been economic, just don't feed the coaching cycle. And what I see oftentimes is that companies will take some of their best salespeople and they'll destroy them by making them managers. And so there's just certain coaching skills, reinforcement skills, communication skills that are there, and as we know, 2/3 of managers are delusional. So, it doesn't work out. There's hope, though. There's hope because great marketing and salespeople aren't kind of made from birth. You can kind of find your way. All of us have probably the right mix. if we can stay away from the bad forces and kind of support one another in groups like this or within your own organization. And think about the ways that if you can, not to be perfect, but just be better in fighting some of these forces that pull us away from good customer conversations. It's stronger brands, it's more customer satisfaction, it's shorter deal cycles, it's better win rates, you don't get caught in price wars quite so often, referrals, all those things kind of, again, come from this idea about being able to engage in better conversations that are more clear, more consistent. I'm going to try something here. I promised I would at least give one tool or one suggestion. We can all kind of nod our heads about some of these things in concept, but something that you can practice and do and take to your own organizations and make it better for yourself. I'll tell you an example from a consulting client. It was a small company. It was kind of a startup. They were a few years into this, and we were kicking off a new engagement. So I was meeting with their board of directors. Right? So everybody there knew the business. Everybody there had some investment in the business. Right? So we were all kind of around a very nice conference table. There were 9 people, and I was talking about this whole notion about kind of putting together a playbook so everybody could, not a script, but again, kind of a playbook that people could go to and kind of get the story right, and using that as a way for coaching all the teams. So I started at one end of the table and said, well, part of what I want to do here is really get a best practice. Right? Start to accumulate the people who really know the business the best and can give us a good starting point. So let me start with you, and you tell me when you talk to a peer, a friend, or someone says, well, tell me about so-and-so company. What do you do? Or I saw something about this company. Don't you have a role with them? Your elevator pitch, right? What's your kind of quick thing? Crickets. Does anybody have an example? Kind of just what you do naturally already that you'd want to share? Crickets. I wasn't going to let it go. I would make the silence work for us. And then finally, after about 40 painful seconds, one of the directors said, okay, I'll give it a shot. It was awful. And so this is a skill. And I noticed, Sean, all the way from when you introduced yourself to people going around and introducing visitors, you're actually better at this, far better at this than most. But most people, even very experienced folks, stumble all over this. You know, see somebody at a trade show, or I'm accustomed to seeing the same person at a client or a customer. But there's somebody new who's there and say, oh, well, you know, Sean, you probably haven't met so-and-so. And then, hey, so what do you do? What do you do in that situation? There's a best practice for what's sometimes called an elevator pitch. I hate the term applied to this kind of conversation, but just kind of your short story, your introductory conversation. I'm going to give this a very quick shot, and we'll see how I do. And imagine how this might be either in a brief conversation, or even if you have to leave a phone, voicemail, or something along those lines. I'm Jim Karrh. I'm a marketing and sales consultant, and I'm an expert at helping organizations of different types manage their message at the point of customer contact, at the sharp edge of engagement. I've been doing this for a number of years as an educator, as a corporate marketing executive, and now as a consultant. I work with companies ranging from startups to Fortune 50 companies like Honeywell, Alcatel-Lucent, and helping them bring a lot more clarity and consistency out to their conversations in the field. Now, I find that when I'm speaking with executives, they oftentimes worry that out in the field that the message is getting lost, it's getting diluted, it's inconsistent, it's really not focused on the needs of customers. And I'm wondering, in your company, so what do you do to help make sure that your message is focused in the right way and that it's clear and consistent? Now, that's not perfect, and there's some others that I've kind of used it for other parts of the practice. But when we're oftentimes coaching people who are out in the field about how to do this, there's a structure, and in terms of what I just did. And if I could have any just brief coaching point or something from the experiences that I've had over the last few years that can make everybody immediately better, is to have this at the ready. Following a certain kind of flow. 20 to 40 seconds, because most of psychology suggests that people make a credibility judgment in that 30-second-ish time frame. Now they'll decide whether they kind of are prone to liking you maybe in less than 10 seconds, but when it comes to the credibility piece, they'll give you a little bit longer. You know, it might give you an extra 20 seconds. So something that, and it may be that if you have different kinds of benefits, different kinds of solutions, products, things like that, you might have some different versions. But it's kind of a positioning statement. What are you the expert in doing? What's your deal? What are you all about? Which is probably not your job title or how long you work someplace. It's what you're really good at doing for other people. It may be a credibility point. You don't want to drone on and on about this, but get a sense of how you have that piece of knowing what you're talking about. Maybe an issue or an insight. I never ask people what their pain points are. I figure that shows me to be lazy. But I may talk to them, maybe put a hypothesis out there about things that I've seen in talking to their peers or people that have similar kinds of positions. But this is kind of what I'm seeing. I'm wondering what you're seeing. Is that something that you're seeing in your organization? Is there a particular benefit or something that you're looking for these days that maybe you haven't been able to find? If so, you know, maybe we can have a cup of coffee about it, or we can talk a little bit more, and I can answer some questions for you. So that's a thought. That's a part of the toolkit that anyone can get better at. And again, by the way, I listened pretty closely to what several of you are doing. You're pretty good, actually. You're ahead of that game. So we're coming up close to 1 o'clock. We start on time and end on time. I hope that this is the beginning of a longer conversation. If I can be helpful to you, I'll suggest a couple of things here. First, I told Jeannie that if I don't get blackballed, I'll be very happy to join, because the new member plaque looks really cool. One of those and get a neat picture. I do a number of things. Again, I have my own work where I do direct consulting work, and also work through DSG. I have a couple of books that I brought with me. This book is it's a collection of columns from Arkansas business. I'm working on a new original book project around some of these themes that I talked about today. So if you have some ideas, things that resonated with you or didn't, let me know. If you do LinkedIn, find me. If you can spell my last name, you're there. I own Google search for Karrh. Actually, I own Google search for lots of ways that it's misspelled as well. What I will also suggest to you that, and I think we're going to be able to give away a couple of the books. There's a Kindle version available as well. I'm in a partnership with the Vascular Anomalies Center of Excellence at Arkansas Children's Hospital, the proceeds of selling the book. It's not a New York Times bestseller yet, and that's not my aspiration, but as I continue to do more speaking engagements and other book deals and things like that, if they ever come, the Vascular Anomalies Center is going to be the area that I support. They do a great job with our niece. And so anyway, and I'd invite you to, at any point, to check out what they do as well. I hope you found this a benefit. We didn't have a whole lot of time for Q&A, but again, love to engage with you over the coming months and years for the SMEI.
Yeah, I mean,
Do y'all have any questions? Does
throw out some
anybody?
quick questions.
You bet.
Does anybody have?
I do have a question.
Yes.
It says Karrh and Associates. Who are your associates and what do they do?
Well, it depends on how many you need. You know, it's interesting, in a lot of the agency and consulting business, what I found, and basically the deal is I have a network of people who do different stuff in support of a particular project. I don't have 50 people on the roof. But you know, it's interesting. I think that I heard someone describe the current state of consultancies and ad agencies and the like. It's more like casting a movie than anything else. So you probably have a producer who has this vision of what they're going to do and the business model behind it. And that producer will tend to hire a director who's good at a certain genre. And the director will have actors and cinematographers and people in music and all those other things that they probably worked with, or worked with people who worked with them, and they assemble the team kind of to match what they're trying to do. So that's
So
what
anyone in
my
this room
is.
could end up being one of your associates?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Nothing would delight me more. And anything else? Any other questions or comments?
I thought you were fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.